Howdy and welcome. Welcome to Revenge of the Meeples. I'm Mike. I'm your board gaming every dude. And today we're going to be looking at the top 10 solo games. Let's get right to it. We're going to start out with the runner-up. So this one didn't quite make the cut. And honestly, it's only because I've played it way too much lately. So it'll probably make it in the top 10 later. This is Obsession, designed by Dan Halligan. This, as you can see, Pride, Intrigue, and Prejudice in Victorian England. The production value on this is quite high, and it's clear from when you start that this is a passion project for this designer. From the cards that show some pictures of people from real history, I believe, as well as some fictional characters, to the wooden meeples. Sometimes the color palette isn't my favorite, but the more I play it, the more it makes sense. So I guess it's fine. So if you're interested in a fun game about courtship, where you are building a very efficient engine in order to gain the most prestige to win the love of one of two of the Fairchild children, this game's for you. Now, playing solo honestly doesn't vary much from playing with a group of up to 4. I've only played up to 4. I've played 2-player and 4-player. The only difference is maybe 1 or 2 effects from a couple of the tiles where you're upgrading your estate. So yeah, runner up there, Obsession. All right, let's get down to number 10. My number 10 game was designed by Ignacy Trzewiczek. Forgive me if I said that wrong. I hope I got it right. And it's a game that, just like Portal Games says, tells a story. This story is about being marooned on an... Wait, I don't have to keep going. You know what it is. Robinson Crusoe. Robinson Crusoe is one of the first probably 10 games, I believe, that I bought. So it was early in on my solo playing experience. At first, it was overwhelming. As anybody plays this game knows, basically you expect you're going to die. However, that's not really true. You learn the right strategies, and at least in quite a few of the scenarios, you can survive every single time, but you got to work hard to learn those. Production value, the art is beautiful, the theme carries strong. It can be, it's not that old of a game to even say that it's dated. However, it does have a reprint, like a deluxe edition, coming out in Kickstarter very soon. And I've signed up on that Kickstarter, so I'm looking forward to seeing some of those upgrades. But even without it, when you play this game and you are crafting shelters, fighting wild animals, exploring a dangerous and mysterious island, trying to survive as it rains and snows and storms, you build a story. It's a beautiful story. So I will play this any day of the week. It's a bit of a longer game, a bit of a setup, but there it is. Oh, Robinson Crusoe, number 10. Let's go to number 9. My number 9 was designed by Etienne Esperman and produced by Geek Attitude Games. It's a beautiful game that takes place around the Art Nouveau period of 1897. You got an idea of what game that is? Small box card game that's based on a previous board game of the same name. Any ideas? Any ideas? Let's see. Brussels, 1897. I bought this recently. Here's the interesting thing. This does not come with a solo mode, so maybe I cheated here. But I made a solo mode for it. If you'd like to learn that solo mode, check the card as it pops down up there. It's also in the playlist for Brussels. All right, Brussels 1897. This is a modular board game. So there's a tiny little board where you keep track of your score, and the rest, the modular part, is actually made by laying out the cards. And what you're doing is you are collecting works of art, works of architecture, and the influence of nobles in order to gain the most influence, basically, in the city of Brussels in 1897. And there are several ways to win. You can focus on architecture, collecting the buildings. You can focus on earning the respect and prestige that you need from nobles. Lots of ways to get up that track to earn those points. So, Brussels 1897, number 9 in the books. Let's go to number 8. My number 8 was designed by Ryan Sutherland and produced by Ultra Pro Entertainment and Stoneblade Entertainment. This is a small box card game where you're basically building your own Candyland. Any idea what that is? Boom. Little game here, Sweetlandia. Sweetlandia. This is not a solo game. However, I've designed a solo play, which you can check out at that card right there if you're interested. But what's so nice about this game? One, the artwork. The artwork is very simple but very beautiful. The cotton houses and the rocky road that's actually a rocky road. But it's the idea of building this entire town, this city of candy and these, I forget the names of the forests, the caramel rivers and all of that. But the bidding mechanic is actually quite fun even when you're playing against a solo AI. The difficulty can scale to where this becomes quite a challenge, almost to impossible, or you can make it easy. Highly recommend if you want a bidding game, Sweetlandia, in the books, number 8. Let's move, number 7. Designed by Maddox Schuler, and it's produced by Keymaster Games. This is a game of very scary, actually super cheesy creatures. Nope, it's not horrified. What is this? Boom. Campy Creatures. Campy Creatures, 2nd edition. Campy Creatures is a card game that, like the previous two, was not designed with the solo mode. I know, it's gotta stop. But there's a fan-made solo mode, which I should mention, Brussels also has a fan-made solo mode that is outstanding. Campy Creatures has a solo mode, and all of these solo modes I'm going to put a link to in the description if you don't click on one of my videos there. But anyway, Campy Creatures is a card game where you have a card of campy creatures, monsters that we all know, like the Blob. The Blob is a great one from the 80s. There's one, it's not the Wolfman, I'm always forgetting who that is, but it's somebody like that. Anyway, you have a hand of these monsters, and you are going out trying to capture these poor victims. Actually, I guess it's kind of sad. So there are some, like a group of teenagers running away, or an archaeologist, or there are some that you try to capture that fight back. They're no good, like the diver or the hunter, and they'll actually cause you harm. Anyway, you're trying to capture them so you can give them to some mad scientist in a lab. That, of course, earns you points. Well, when you play the solo game, it's a very interesting design, because what it is in order for you to play a monster, the more powerful the monster is, you have to pay a price. So let's say I want to play the most powerful monster. Well, I have to pay a price through the points I've earned. So if I've got 30 points and I want to play the strongest monster that's worth 8 points, well, now I'm down to 22. If you go down to 0, then you lose the game. And you still have to have the most points to win the game, and your AI opponent is scoring points. So it's quite a puzzle, as well as a little bit of social deduction, just a little bit in the solo game. Wonderful components, beautiful artwork. I highly recommend it. There we go. We've got number 7 in the books, Campy Creatures. Let's go look at number 6. Number 6 is very special to me. Number 6 is produced by Gale Force 9. They're known for doing excellent IPs. This game is an IP. I bought this game early in my solo career, which was just over a year ago. One of the very first games I bought. This game reproduced the feel of a movie that I really loved so well. I felt I was in it. But it was more than that. The game mechanics themselves stand on their own. So before I tell you about that, can you guess what it is? Probably. Just think, she was bald like me. Though not in this. No, this is Aliens, Another Glorious Day in the Core. It's sideways. There you go. Aliens, Another Glorious Day in the Core. This game has a very cool endurance mechanic where you are able to take actions and fire at the aliens with whatever weapon of your choice you have. However, to do that, exhausts you. So you spend endurance, and the endurance comes out of not just out of your hand, but out of an available supply of cards. So say you've got 20 cards in a supply, and you take an action that exhausts 3 of those. Well, now you've only got 17 to take actions, and it is not easy to replenish that supply. So as the game continues, your endurance, the availability of cards that can come to you, just goes down and down, and it's stressful. So you're constantly trying to juggle refreshing your characters so you get those cards back and taking action. It's pretty difficult to rest and refresh when you've got 10 aliens right in front of you attacking you, and you just need to survive. And this is a game of elimination. When you play it solo, you can control 3, 4, 5, 6 characters if you want. When you get to expansions, which we'll do in another video, you can go up to 8. Best way to play this solo, the sweet spot is to control 3 different characters. If you do 2, it's quite challenging. You do 4, it gets just a teeny tiny bit easier. But play through the campaign, it feels just like playing through the movie, and there's replayability in bug hunt campaigns as well. I haven't played through them all. I've played through a few, but I just enjoy the campaign so much I just replay that. So there we go. Number 6 in the books, Aliens, Another Day in the Corps. Number 5 was cool because I was in a local game store, Cape Fear Games, and there was this game on the shelf, and the artwork was just so beautiful. It was cute, but it was also kind of magical, charming, nice colors. And when I read the description, it sounded like it was this puzzle building game where you're also trying to do some kind of market economy thing, which honestly, market economy bores me to tears. It involved nature, which honestly, boring. I tell you, when I first saw the idea for Wingspan, I was like, could it be more boring? Bird watching and a board game. Really, really dull. Turns out that's a fantastic game. I love that game. But anyway, let's check this one out. Honey Buzz. This game is deceptive, let me tell you. For a solo play, you can start with it. If you try to play this with other people, keep in mind, this is actually kind of a heavy game. Maybe it'd be considered medium to heavy. But because of the fact that you have a puzzle where you are building a honeycomb, and each little comb adds an action. It allows you to produce honey, which then can allow you to sell that honey to a market to fill orders, and each time you sell it, the market value for that honey drops down. Meanwhile, you also have a board where you've got little bees that are foraging through pollen in order to find nectar. And then on top of that, you've got the actual hive where you're selecting actions, and you have to do worker placement in order to get combs from the hive. I mean, look, this is no Vital Lacerda, but there's a lot going on here. So don't let the cuteness deceive you. And when you're playing it solo, the AI opponent is easy to control, very low maintenance. And honestly, every game that I have chosen, the AI opponent, which actually quite a few of these don't have opponents, but the AI, look, it's easy to control. This game was designed by Paul Salomon. It was produced by Elf Creek Games, and the artists, we've got Ann Heidesick and Jason D. Kingsley. I hope I got all of those right. Absolutely, check this out. Number 5 in the books. There you go. Let's go to number 4. Number 4. This is a newer game, excellent solo play mechanic, based on an IP, sold at Target. Do you know where I'm going? No, it's not. It is not Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. That's not an IP. No, this is a deceptive game because it's got a scary theme, a scary space theme, but it's actually a family-friendly game. You can make it as scary or as silly as you want. And the solo mode can either be very friendly and fun. I don't know how this theme could do that, but it works. Or the designer has actually made a director's cut edition which allows for player elimination, since when you're playing solo, you can control 2 or 3 characters. What's the game? Come on. Here we go. Ravensburger, Alien, Fate of the Nostromo. This is, as some have described it, Nemesis Light. So you can set this up, you can teach this to family, you can teach this to kids. It is not too scary, it is not gory. Everything is kept, it's almost like a boogeyman kind of thing, which may sound like, what? That sounds terrible. No. Because again, you can make it as much of a story or scary as you like, or you can keep it light. But anyway, the point is, you're walking around on the Nostromo. When you're solo, you can control one player, so you can control Ripley or another one of the crew members, or you can control all of the crew members or anybody in between. And the way it works is you are having this alien, of course, stalk around the ship, and you are going around the ship trying to meet objectives, and then that will lead to your finale, the final objective, which is a surprise. It might be to blow the ship up, or it could be any of maybe 5 or 6 other final objectives that you have to meet. So you're going around the ship, collecting scrap, building items, and running from the alien, because you can't beat the alien, just like in the movie. However, each time you have an encounter with the alien, or with Jones the cat, that's a fun part. We'll have to do a playthrough with that, of the director's cut version. Then you lose morale, and you can't regain morale in this game. That I remember. Maybe I have that wrong. I don't remember being able to do that. You can just slow down how fast it drops. But anyway, point is that morale hits 0, and it's game over. Your crew no longer has the will to live. So that's how they dealt with player elimination if you're playing with several people, is you just lose morale, you don't actually lose a character. However, when you play solo director's cut, the characters can actually die. So that adds a little more of the suspense feel of this particular theme. So yeah, Alien, check it out. It's a bit of a lighter game, light to light medium. I'd say light. It's a light game. Check it out. Number 4 in the books. Number 3. Number 3 was designed by Adam Kwapinski. I sure hope I said that right. And it's produced by Awaken Realms. Considering the themes I've put out, if you're familiar with any of these, you may know what's coming up. If you're totally new to board games, totally cool. Here we go. Number 3. Oh, I gotta build muscle for this. Oh. There we go. Nemesis. Also known as Alien. Oh, I'm sorry, I got that wrong. No, this is Nemesis. So let's get straight to the downside. The downside is it is uncomfortably close to Alien. It is obviously something that was designed and they couldn't get the licensing, and that's fine. I just wish that they had started maybe with Void Seeders, one of the later expansions, that is distant enough from Alien that it's not uncomfortable with how close it is. So just know right up front, this is Alien, but it's called Nemesis. All right? If you can get over that, this game tells a story, much like Robinson Crusoe. You're a crew that wake up on a ship, and there are these intruders, alien intruders, roaming about the ship, trying to kill you. Now, normally this would be a semi-co-op game where you are working with other people at your table, and you are partially working together, but you also have private objectives that might work against each other. So you may actually be out to sabotage each other secretly. When you play solo, that's not an issue. It's cooperative. You can choose to control one character, say the captain, or you can choose to control 2, 3, 4, or 5 characters, all going around the ship, trying to meet their objectives. However, they all work together when you're playing solo. So that part is very nice, and I don't believe detracts in any way from the game. I actually think this game is strong in a cooperative mode. I actually prefer it over the semi-co-op, but maybe that's just because of how I am. Anyway, this takes up a lot of table space. This is a heavier game. Whether it would be medium heavy or heavy on Board Game Geek, I have no idea. Somebody can go check that. But if you are new to gaming, this is not the one really to start with. As it's also quite pricey. This is, well over $100. a lot of the reason it's so expensive is because of the miniatures, and frankly, I don't care all that much about miniatures. I'm not that into them. I think that the intruders are way too large for the board. I like the character models, but I would rather a slightly cheaper game with smaller miniatures. I could even do with standees if needed. But they are beautifully done, and people love this game for it, so please don't take that as a negative. I am not a miniatures person. That's just me. However, the theme and the mechanics are so strong. So with each character having their own abilities and objectives, going around the ship collecting items to build new items, collecting weapons to use to survive. Meanwhile, the ship is catching fire, it's falling apart, things are creeping around to scare you, and you've got like this much of a chance that you'll actually survive. But this game is to tell a story. You probably won't live, but if you do, cool. Either way, you've got a great story, and there is some real strategy. There are some more certain ways to win than others, but there's enough randomness that you're gonna die. You're gonna die. All right, that is number 3. Let's go to number 2. Number 2 should probably be number 1. Honestly, I love this game. I saw a picture on Instagram. It's got artwork by Ian O'Toole. I saw a picture on Instagram, and I was like, man, that's beautiful. What on earth is that? It was like this ballroom with these incredible colors, and it looked like there was this picture of these people waltzing, and then I saw a picture of the board, and there's fireworks. And I was like, what is that? I need it. Well, Eagle Griffin Games, here we go. Oh, this medium to medium heavy maybe. I'm not really good with the weights because I judge it by the experience for me, and when I read them on, honestly, Board Game Geek, I don't really often align with how they categorize things, and I'm probably totally off, whatever. But anyway, okay, so Eagle Griffin Games, we've got Matthias Kramer must be the designer, and Louis Mize and Stefan Mals, yeah. So Rococo Deluxe Edition. So I paid a pretty penny. This is, well over $100, but it's worth every bit of it. I've been able to teach this game to a brand new player, actually, and she was able to learn it with the jewelry box expansion that comes with it. So in this game, what you're doing is you are playing a owner of a tailoring business. So as the owner of that, you have some craftsmen. So you have like a master tailor, an apprentice, a journeyman, I think. And what you do is you go out and you shop for different fabrics and silks and threads and things of that nature. And then you go and you craft dresses out of it. Then you rent those dresses out to the French royalty during the time of King Louis XVI, I believe. Rent it out for this grand ball at the end of the season. And your goal is to have the most influence. So you want to have the best gowns and frocks and rings and necklaces and all that good stuff out in the palace, so that you can gain prestige points. You can also sponsor decorations and musicians, and it all comes to a beautiful crescendo at the end when you get to send some, if you play it right, of your garments up with guests to the fireworks show at the very end. So there's a lot going on in this game, but my goodness, it's beautiful. I can't get enough of it. I just play it again and again. Solo is hard. You play against Madame du Barry, which is pretty cool if you look up the history of it or watch Marie Antoinette, or I think there was a movie, I've never seen it, called The Affair of the Necklace. But anyway, real person. But you play against Madame du Barry, and she's hard. So just know that going in, you'll probably lose. You'll probably lose a lot. And that to me is a sign of a great solo build. It was not an afterthought. Beautiful work of art. Rococo. Number 2 should be number 1. All right. That brings us to number 1, which should have been Rococo. And this may change someday, I don't know. This game is my very first game by a designer called Vital Lacerda, who is known for making rather difficult games, but beautifully themed games with a lot of different moving pieces that all have synergy. That's like his thing, is synergy. So let me just lay this out. Terraforming Mars. I have no desire to play it. When I hear people talk about, now if somebody wants to play it, I'll play it. So if somebody has it out on the table, I will play it with them. I'm not going to buy it. It doesn't appeal to me at all. But then I was in the game store and I saw this other game. You know what it is. It's called On Mars. Artwork also by Ian O'Toole, just like Rococo and some of my favorite games. On Mars. One of the heaviest games there is. A theme where you are building up a colony on Mars. In this game, you have two sides to the board. You have the space station side when you're in orbit, and then the side when you are actually on Mars building up your colony. Much of the game is managing your timing between traveling on a shuttle between the space station and the surface of Mars. When you're on the space station, you're able to collect resources, research technology, and more while you're on the station that you can take back to the surface to end up building up the surface. Then when you get to the surface, you actually start making building, oxygen plants, and power supplies, greenhouses, all of that good stuff. And the more self-sufficient the colony becomes, the less you need to travel in space. This game is hard. I spent a good 2 weeks learning this game, but I loved every moment of it. I loved learning this game, and I loved playing it. There are some faults with the solo opponent, but with a game that has this many moving parts, they still did a pretty good job. So the solo opponent, the only downside is sometimes he can get stuck on the surface of Mars, and that's going to be a hard game. Or he can get stuck in orbit, and that makes for a slightly more possible game. There are 4 or 5 different challenge levels with this AI opponent, and I've heard some complaint that, well, what do you do once you've beat the final one? And I guess if you have enough time to actually beat the final one, power to you, and then just play again because it's so beautiful. All the different parts just link together so darn well. I love this game. I love it, and I did not think I would. All right, that's it. Those are my top 10 solo games. Please, in the description, let me know. Should I have ordered them differently? Let me know why. If there's other games that you would put in there, please let me know. Heck, put in your own top 10 list. And be sure to subscribe so that we can see a more detailed look at these games, playthroughs, also maybe some more top 10 lists. Top 10 solo games for romantics, or just top 10 2-player games, top 10 3-player games, top 10 space games. I don't know. We'll see whatever y'all like. Thank you so much. I love you all. Have a great day.